Hey everyone, welcome to another match of Temur Tarmodrazi. Today we're playing Taking Turns. Yes, the beloved Taking Turns. Um, Starting hand is threat heavy, a bit slow. The only reason I kept it was because we had Ancient Stirrings. If we didn't have Ancient Stirrings and the ability to dig for an Eldrazi Temple, which is exactly what we see here, um, yeah, that would have definitely been a mulligan. We got lucky. I mean, it's very easy to whiff on Ancient Stirrings in this deck, but not in this case. So we have a turn 3 Thought-Knot Seer, potentially. Most likely we'll cast a Tarmogoyf next turn, depending on what our opponent plays. Watery Grave. Yeah. Anytime you see that, you're most likely seeing a Thoughtseize come your way. My guess is Thought-Knot Seer is going to get picked off here. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Definitely don't want us going through our opponent's hand. So we have a 3/4 Tarmogoyf. We can start putting some pressure. Next turn we could put our second Tarmogoyf down. Or not, because it looks like he's about to be Inquisitioned. That's okay. We've been through this before with this deck, as you've seen in our Mardu 8-ball matchup. We had 3 consecutive turns of our hand being stripped by Inquisition and Thoughtseize. At this point, it would make sense to bolt our opponent so that Tarmogoyf grows, and then we can swing in for 4. We don't have access to blue right now, so Sunburned Denial is useless, but we have plenty of ways of getting blue. Even a Traverse right now would be able to get an island, so we're okay for the time being. Our opponent is down to 8, which is significant. So if he can't remove Tarmogoyf soon, it's not really going to matter if we draw a blue source or not. So Howling Mine finally comes down, but it's a tad late. This is actually going to help us, because we're going to be drawing an extra card next turn. This has always been the coin flip with taking turns. But now we're going to draw 2 cards. And there we go. We have access to our blue source, worst case. And we're going to attack in. Now we have the option of casting Clothis. I don't think I would do that though. At this point, it's better just play it safe. There's no reason to cast Clothis, considering we have lethal next turn, and if our opponent does try to remove Tarmogoyf or whatever, we can Stubborn Denial it with Ferocious active. So at this point, especially given the fact that our opponent is tapping out, Lightning Bolt ends the game. Not quite sure why I didn't just do it. Let's be honest, I'm almost certain I just missed that. I missed the fact that our opponent went down to 2. We're kind of just toying with him. Also probably think that our opponent forgot that we're playing Lightning Bolt. Yeah. Either way, we still won that game, but I did clearly miss the fact that I could have just bolted our opponent. What do we bring in? So our opponent is playing artifacts, maybe playing some enchantments, but Cindervines is definitely an include. Uro is okay. Alpsin Baloth, I'm only really bringing in because of discard, but realistically, not necessary. It's just not that kind of a game. Odds are our opponent is going to be Thoughtseizing and Inquisitioning early on, so mostly bringing in Artifact Hate. So our starting hand is two Eldrazi Temples and no other source of mana. That's far too risky, given the fact that taking turns can lock us out relatively quickly, despite what we saw last game. Um, yeah, and this hand is relatively anemic. Um, there's a risk that we don't draw any threats and that Ancient Stirrings whiffs. So this is a difficult decision. Um, if we keep it, we have an answer to artifacts on our opponent's side, but it's risky. Right now, my gut is saying chuck it. It's time to mulligan. But let's see what Kev in the past did. He kept. So this was a gamble. Definitely a gamble. We're hoping. I mean, we are going second. Leyline of Sanctity is interesting. I'm not quite sure why that was sided in against us. I mean, our opponent's probably afraid of Lightning Bolt and I guess Thought-Knot Seer. Still seems like a card that would be a waste against us for the most part. We were Thought Seized. And Cindervines was taken from us, but that's okay because we can still dig for potential threat. We didn't find one, we just found more land, and this was the gamble, right? This was the gamble with going with the anemic hand that we had. But it is what it is. We cannot do much. So we draw a Lightning Bolt, not what we wanted. At this point, we're just trying to get lands out of our deck. I mean, that's at least the strategy that I'm thinking of. Now, in retrospect, that was a misplay because if I am counting correctly, if we had bolted our opponent, even if it was gonna fail, um, we could have then had Delirium active on Traverse. We could have gone and fetched for a threat. We didn't do that, I think, mostly because if we do cast Lightning Bolt, we'd have to cast it against ourselves because our opponent is not a valid target. Um, but yeah, now we're flooding in lands, so it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Um, our opponent is taking their time, but this is what taking turns does in general. I mean, once they have the lock, it's more or less game. And we're not really threatening them right now with any kind of pressure at all. So this is kind of frustrating. Or at least it was frustrating when I was playing. We're going to get hit for one. Again here, fetching end of turn, just getting as many cards out of the deck as possible. As many lands out of the deck as possible. And we draw more lands, so this feels like I just want to, like, Alt F4 and call it a night. But I stick to it. I mean, it looks like our opponent is short on lands, which is positive. This is the time where we cast Lightning Bolt. But that was also a misplay. Should have just. I mean, I keep forgetting that Leyline is on the field, so I guess it's not really a misplay, considering that we can't target anything, and targeting Fave Wishes is kind of pointless, considering they have a 4 defense stat. So, looks like we're dying to Fave Wishes right now, which is fantastic. So we're hoping for no land. Okay, that's not a land. This is good as card as any. We have 3 lands in hand, which is just horrible. We're going to be able to cast whatever we draw, but we have to hope that we actually draw Gaz and not land. Our opponent has missed a bunch of land drops, which I think has also helped us in this situation. Reality Smasher. Finally, our threats are coming in. So this is good. We're going to be able to attack with both creatures this turn. And things get a bit more interesting. Again, our opponent has fallen short on mana, which is to our advantage here. Generally speaking, when we flood this badly on lands, it's essentially game over, because we need to maintain pressure with our threats, and when we are flooding, we're not doing that. So there's no counterspell, there's no mana leak, there's no remand, so we're going to attack in, see if our opponent has a response. Either way, we can't do anything if they do. So they're going to take 5 to the face. Now, again, our opponent doesn't really care what their life total is as long as it's above 0, because they just need to lock us in. So they're returning Fave Wishes into their owner's hand. Fine. It's basically gonna act like a chump blocker every turn. Kind of seems like a losing strategy though. Opponent gets their third land, but it comes into play tapped, which I'm sure they are not happy about. Our opponent again also discarded another ley line, as you can see. Yeah, it's a dead card. We're just not that dependent on targeting our opponent. So another lightning bolt, another useless lightning bolt. We're gonna play our land. And we're gonna attack again. We're gonna get chumped again. I'm assuming our opponent doesn't want to discard too many cards. Yeah. This time they let it die. I'm assuming because they need the cards and they have it in their hand. Let's see if our opponent gets their 4th card. I think for taking turns 4 lands is essentially their target. So they get it. Great. So we're probably going to see something a bit more interesting on our opponent's side right now. Yep. Let's see what they target. Generally speaking, this is not meant for Inquisition of Kozilek. This is usually meant for a spell that allows them to get an extra turn. Fires of Invention obviously resolved because we haven't drawn any of our permission. And now we're going to get Inquisition of Kozilek. That's fine. They're going to take the spell that we can't use anyway. And they quit. I think they just didn't have enough there. So our opponent didn't really manage to take off here. That game too was pretty bad because we flooded for several turns, and our opponent seemed to have just drawn gas for several turns without enough land to play them. So let's just look at the taking turns deck as a whole compared to what our strategy is, what our attack plan is, and what we have as answers. We have plenty of permission main board. We have some tools post board with Cinder Vines. Not too many though. The general strategy here is get your threats, get them on the board, and attack every turn, and just punch through. as quickly as possible. Um, yeah, taking turns, their target land count is usually 4 at least, because that's when they can actually start doing serious damage. In this case, our opponent just didn't have it. He fiddled around, and he paid for it pretty badly, considering that, you know, we flooded for several turns. But we eventually drew our threats, and we had enough pressure to force a concession. So that's that. This could have been a much technically longer game, because even when taking turns has put us on the lock, it just takes forever to kill. Um, so I guess it's a good thing that our opponent didn't draw as many lands as he wanted to earlier on in that second game. I hope you enjoyed this match. I've got a few more I need to upload. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe. Please support me. I would appreciate any subscription. Plus, you get notifications anytime I upload a new video. Um, and yeah, that would be great. Thanks a lot, and stay tuned for more.